Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. North Korea held a major military parade on October 10th, marking the 80th anniversary of its ruling Workers' Party, the first such event in over 2 years. The parade featured new missile systems, including the debut of the Hwasong-20 ICBM, and drew top officials from China, Russia, Vietnam, and Laos. But notably, Kim Jong-un's speech avoided direct threats towards the U.S. or South Korea. As North Korea nears the end of its 5-year defense plan and expands its diplomatic outreach beyond its traditional allies, the latest parade is sparking fresh questions about Pyongyang's evolving military posture and regional ambitions. For a closer look into the situation, we connect to Park Won-gon, professor of North Korean Studies at Ewha Womans University. A big welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And also joining us is Bruce Klinger, non-resident senior fellow at the Marine and Mike Mansfield Foundation. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for joining us. So let's start with Dr. Klinger. Of course, the North Korea's massive military parade of its ruling Workers' Party. So this was the regime's first parade in over 2 years since 2023. What prompted Pyongyang to stage this large-scale event right now?
North Korea does the parades on the anniversaries of the founding of the regime, the party, and the military. And so the two large parades in 2023 were the anniversaries of the regime and the military. And they do larger parades showcasing a lot of the military equipment in anniversaries that end in 5 or 0. So the 2023 parades were the 75th anniversary of the founding of the military and then also of the regime. And the recent parade was the 80th anniversary of the founding of the party. So it was actually, even though it was quite impressive in the military equipment, it was actually a bit smaller than 5 years ago. But certainly the star of the show was the Hwasong-20 ICBM. But a message was also on the dais of showing Kim Jong-un with officials from China and Russia, as well as some Southeast Asian nations. So a lot of messages on display, both out on the street and up on the dais.
Right. So just as Dr. Klinger has mentioned, pointed out that North Korea unveiled its new intercontinental ballistic missile, the Hwasong-20, for the very first time. Professor Park, tell us, how does it differ from the earlier Hwasong-19, and why do you think the regime showcased a missile that is still in development?
You know, the military parade in North Korea are not just for show. They are a way to send a strong message to the outside world. At the 75th anniversary parade of Workers' Party back in 2020, Pyongyang reveals a new intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time. And this year, they did it again, promoting the Hwasong-20 as their most powerful nuclear strategic weapon. But here's what's interesting. This missile has never been test-fired. Last year, they launched the Hwasong-19 and called it as the final perfect version. So developing another model so soon is quite unusual. Both missiles are almost the same size, about 28 meters long, and they used identical transporter vehicle with 11 axles and 22 wheels. The main difference seems to be a new carbon fiber composite engine, which could boost thrust by about 40%. So the real question is, why? Why reveal another ICBM when they already claimed the Hwasong-19 can hit the entire United States mainland? It ties back to Kim Jong-un's statement on September 21st, when he said that if the United States abandoned its obsession with denuclearization, I could meet again with the Trump who holds good memories. Essentially, Kim is signaling that if Washington does not accept arms control talks or the easy sanctions, North Korea will keep showing off missiles capable of reaching the United States. Now, he didn't directly criticize the U.S. in his parade speech, but by putting these weapons on full display, he sent a very clear message to Washington.
Right. This comes as Washington continues to keep its stance on denuclearization, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Right. So, Professor Park has mentioned this new ICBM, they revealed it, and Pyongyang also rolled out a wide array of new weapons, including the hypersonic short-range ballistic missile Hwasong-20 MA, multiple rocket launchers, and also drones. So what about Dr. Klinner? Considering, this year marks the final year of North Korea's stated 5-year defense plan, do you think this parade could be seen as a celebration of internal achievements, or do you think there was a message directed outwards?
Well, I think there were a lot of messages being sent, both domestically and to foreign audiences. So domestically, it's a matter of pride. It shows that North Korea is very strong, that it can deter its enemies, and it's a way of rallying the people's support for the regime and the leadership, and a way of Kim showing that he has achieved most, if not all, of the very lofty goals announced 5 years ago in its 5-year strategic plan. And also for foreign audiences, the display of the ICBM, sort of yet another ICBM, is a message to the United States that you can't attack us. We are very powerful. We can attack the American homeland with nuclear weapons. And then the shorter range missiles are a message to Japan and South Korea that, yes, they can reach out to those two countries, and therefore they should not participate in any kind of hostile action along with the United States against North Korea. And then the non-missile weapons are also a way of showing that they don't rely only on asymmetric nuclear weapon attacks. They do have an improving conventional weapon capability, though clearly not as strong as that of South Korea. But it's showing that they have missiles that can evade South Korean and U.S. missile defense systems, and also the drone technology, incorporating lessons I think they've learned from their participation of North Korean troops in operations in Ukraine or against Ukraine.
Right, so it seems like they're signaling both inward and outward at once. Now, going back to what North Korea actually wants to say, interestingly, in his speech during the parade, Kim Jong-un refrained from directly threatening the U.S. or South Korea, which Professor Park has pointed out is in contrary to, showcasing new weapons. And he only made vague remarks about, opposing injustice and hegemony. Why do you think he chose to take quite a softer tone in terms of language, Professor Park?
Well, I already mentioned that Kim Jong-un had already delivered a very detailed policy speech on September 24th at the Supreme People's Assembly, where he laid out his key message toward both South Korea and the United States. Toward the United States, already mentioned that he wanted to have an arms reduction talk, instead of the denuclearization talk. When it came to the South Korea, his message was very blunt. And he said that, quote, "We have no reason to sit face to face with South Korea, and we will do nothing together with them." So in that sense, there was no real need for him to repeat the same message during this latest parade. It's also important to remember that this parade marks the 80th anniversary of the founding of Workers' Party of the Korea. And in North Korea, a military parade is not just a show of force. It's a symbolic act that most concisely reveals the regime's identity and political message. Through this event, Kim wanted to highlight the legitimacy of his regime and reinforce his own leadership authority. What that really means is that North Korea operates under party over state system. The party outrank the state. And the party itself is the core of the Kim's family's power structure. And Kim Il-sung founded the party even before he established the state. So in North Korea ideology, that's seen as his historic achievement and the institutional completion of the revolution. And by emphasizing the party founding again this year, Kim Jong-un is effectively justifying hereditary succession of leadership and reaffirming his legitimacy as the rightful heir to his grandfather's revolution.
Thank you for that explanation, Professor. Now, like we've been saying, let's step a little bit away from the weapons. So, high-profile foreign guests were also in attendance, and these includes, Chinese Premier Li Qiang and Russia's Security Council Deputy Chairman Dmitry Medvedev. So following the recent display of unity during China's Victory Day, this North Korea, China, Russia trilateral appearance again drew a lot of global attention. Dr. Kling, what kind of message do you think they were trying to send to the international community?
Well, again, it's several messages. By having China and Russia on the stage next to him, it's a similar message to all of the weapons that were paraded. It's an indication to the United States and its allies that North Korea is very powerful, not only with its military weapons, but its strong relations with two communist superpowers. It's a signal of you can't attack me because not only do I have my own indigenously produced weapons, but I also have very strong partners. Now, we've debated a lot of whether this is a true trilateral alliance or a series of mutually beneficial bilateral relationships. But overall, it shows, particularly in conjunction with Kim's visit to Beijing and standing there with the Chinese and Russian leaders, that this relationship with both superpowers is very strong and that it's a sign of deterrence. Also, diplomatically, it's showing that Kim is sort of perhaps once again coming out of his shell and that he is being a leader on the world stage, although a part of it. And so it's showing that not only does he have strong friends, but North Korea is punching above its weight for a small country that it's out there on the world stage with two communist superpowers and also reaching out to Southeast Asia and perhaps a signal to the U.S. and South Korea that it doesn't need the benefits from those two countries that it was pursuing so energetically in 2018 and 2019, and that if Pyongyang does come back to the negotiating table, the price it's going to demand is much higher.
Right, so this trilateral coordination does seem to send a very strong message. But even so, some people say that this North Korea, China, Russia alignment is rather more a symbolic move than a substantial one, pointing out that each country has their own strategic priorities. Professor Park, do you think this kind of trilateral solidarity still has real limits?
Well, yes, I agree with that assessment. There is a certain limit among the three countries' cooperation. At the China's Victory Day parade on September 3rd, the leader of North Korea, China, and Russia stood side by side on Tiananmen Gate. But notably, there was no formal trilateral summit. That moment was about symbolism, not institutionalized cooperation like as South Korea, Japan, and United States did for the past couple of years. It was a display of a political alignment rather than a structural alliance. We saw the same thing again at the military parade in Pyongyang, a continuation of that symbolic three-way cooperation shown on the VIP stand. But when we talk about the durability of these North Korea-China-Russia relations, there are very certain limits. What they share is an authoritarian political system and the perception of the United States as a common threat. Beyond that, they don't share a unified vision of political, economic, or social development, nor a common end state for their societies at all. As one Chinese scholar mentioned that China opposed a bloc-style confrontation of the U.S., Japan, Korea versus North Korea, China, Russia. China values its bilateral relations with North Korea and China, not a formal trilateral alignment. That comment really captures Beijing's position. For North Korea, this is a classic also pendulum diplomacy. Pyongyang's goal has never been genuine trust. It's about maximizing practical gains by balancing between China and Russia, much like it did during the Cold War. And finally, there is an important distinction in national identity. China sees itself as great power within the existing international order. It wants to reshape it, not totally destroy it. But North Korea and Russia, on the other hand, seeks to undermine or reject that order entirely. So while three may appear united in short term, their cooperation is built on symbolism and shared opposition, not on lasting institutionalized foundation.
Right. And on top of this, three trilateral alignment, we've also seen a notable guest, Vietnam's top leader, Communist Party Secretary General To Lam. He made a visit in 18 years. And on top of that, Laos President Thongloun Sisoulith also made the trip. And this is also the first such visit by a Laotian leader in 14 years. Professor Park, why do you think is Kim Jong-un ramping up this diplomatic outreach to ASEAN countries at this particular moment?
Well, on August 19th, 2025, Kim Yo-jong, of course, Kim Jong-un's sister, met with the senior directors from North Korea's foreign ministry and conveyed Kim Jong-un's latest foreign policy vision. The key message was that regional diplomacy should revolve around North Korea itself, and that South Korea would not even play a subordinate role within the framework. In other words, Pyongyang declared its intention to take the lead in the regional diplomacy. Now, what does active participation in regional diplomacy mean in the North Korean sense? Essentially, it means excluding South Korea while expanding bilateral and multilateral contacts with the surrounding countries, especially China, Russia, and several Southeast Asian nations. So the underlying policy signal here is twofold. First, it virtually declaration that inter-Korean relations are frozen. And second, that North Korea will now pursue a bypass diplomacy strategy, strengthening the idea of a Korean peninsula without South Korea in diplomatic terms. From that perspective, ASEAN nations remain some of the few countries still maintain ties with Pyongyang, and North Korea is clearly trying to deepen relations with socialist partners, like you just mentioned, Vietnam and Laos, as part of this broader diplomatic pivot.
Right, so it's quite concerning. It's clear Pyongyang is trying to widen its circle very fast. Now, another detail worth noting was Kim Jong-un's daughter, Kim Joo-ae, who was absent from the parade. It's been more than a month since she last appeared in public when she accompanied Kim Jong-un to China's Victory Day in September. Dr. Klinger, do you think this could indicate a shift in her public role, possibly?
Well, frankly, I think we spend too much time focusing on Joo-ae and speculating whether she is the successor. A few years ago, we spent a lot of time focusing on Kim Yo-jong as Kim's sister and wondering if she was the anointed one. And a lot of debate about, in a North Korean society, could a woman become leader? I think we sort of should focus more on the leader that's in front of the curtain today, his policies, his strategies, the actions he may take. And then, when he passes away, then we can face the next leader, whether it's the sister, the daughter, or South Korean intelligence says there's a son who's older than Joo-ae, who I think would be more likely to take over control of the country if he does in fact exist. Also, the way that Joo-ae has been presented, even though she's gotten very illustrious titles, it's sort of the cute daughter who's accompanying her father and being protected by her father, where the two previous generations, when they were depicted as successors, they were shown in, incredibly impressive ways of impressing the generals with their knowledge of military strategy and things. So I'm still very skeptical that Joo-ae will be the successor, but in a way it is immaterial at this point. We need to focus on the current leader and the current policies, and there's no indication that the next leader, whoever it is, will pursue any different kind of policies towards the U.S., South Korea, and Japan.
Right. Of course, we're just speculating as of now. Now, it's like you said, it's really important to focus on the current leader. And taking that advice, finally, before we let you go, North Korea continues to expand its diplomatic engagements with China, Russia, and also some Southeast Asian nations. Professor Park, what kind of diplomatic and security strategy should South Korea be pursuing to maintain balance and protect its national interests at this point?
Right now, South Korea diplomacy is facing one of the toughest challenges in years. And even with its closest ally, United States, things are not easy at all. President Trump push for higher tariff and greater Korean investment in the United States has created real friction. At the same time, Washington wants to restructure ROK-US alliance to focus more on the containing China, which puts Seoul in a very difficult position. Relationship with Japan has improved recently, but the situation has become uncertain again with the change of prime minister in Tokyo. And ties with China are also very complicated. As United States-China tension deepened, Beijing has started reviving cooperation with North Korea, which only add more pressure on Seoul. In this environment, South Korea has little choice but to strengthening the alliance with the United States and maintain close trilateral cooperation with the United States and Japan. At the same time, it also needs to keep a stable relationship with China, but frankly, there is no clear or easy way to do that right now.
Right, but we should be able to, find a solution and to make a breakthrough in the coming months. We'll have to see how it goes. But as for now, we'll have to wrap up our program. Thank you so much for your insights, Professor Park.
Thank you.
And of course, Dr. Klinger, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.